Hello my friends, I am Luke Neller and you're watching Best Replays of the Week. Today we'll take a fresh look at the Confederate Award, once again marvel at the thickness of the T-95's armour and see just how much a 3-tank platoon can carry. How are you? Having a good spring? It's been very hot here, but now it's raining. Okay, enough chit-chat, let's get the warm-up going. We begin at the Hidden Village, where an IS-4 is out for a stroll. And why not? The scenery is just lovely. Also, you get to shoot things. An enemy T-62A comes along to spoil the fun. Suddenly, there's no time to stop and smell the roses. An allied Foch rolls in to give assistance. It fires, and I guess the player forgot about the friendly fire. And of course, the turret is stuck. Great. The Foch gets embarrassed and goes away after taking a shot at the enemy. Okay, no hard feelings I guess, but maybe we shouldn't turn our back on the blue TD again. But the T-62 still loses the duel, and we move on. We continue limbering up on Redshirt. The T-49 turns enemies to scrap one after another. His commitment to recycling has brought him an impressive 8 kills. He finishes off the KV capturing the Allied base, leaving just 2 SPGs remaining, and they seem unlikely to pose much of a threat. Just rush in like it's a store about to close. Oh, did I forget to mention he's out of ammo? Did you think this was an epic carry? This is a warm-up, remember? We finish the warm-up in Himmelsdorf. Late in the battle, a duel starts at the railroad tracks. The ISU-152 and the T-54 hammer each other down to a one-shot kill each. And then something happens to the T-54's gunner. It seems that the gunner ascended from this plane, and now his mortal shell is occupied by somebody or something else. Whatever it is that took his place must be bewildered to find itself in a tank. The feared cockroach fires shot after shot, but the ISU isn't even scratched. Eventually, the bewildered TD puts an end to the spectacle. That's it for the warm-up, let's get to the awards. This week's top defender is the player behind the call sign Tony SNK, driving his Object 704. He finds himself in a Tier 10 battle, and early on he does his best to work with the team. He does his job, but so far it's nothing extraordinary. Things change when the score is 6-10 and the capture starts. All remaining allies decide to go for the enemy base, and only our TD friend heads back to defend his turf. The cap is reset, the Foch took a serious hit, and the teammates have started the counter-capture. The Object decides to make snow explosions for a while. That sure was fun, but there's no more time for messing around. The red bar is racing ahead. He rolls out, lowers the cap at 97% and sends the Foch to the garage. All is well for a moment, but the enemies manage to finish off the counter-capturing teammates. The remaining invader really needs to be dealt with. The WZ-120 is a difficult target for the Object, but an allied Leopard manages to silence the siren for a bit. The Chinese med is distracted, and so the Object rushes in and ends the threat with 2 shots. Good, even suspiciously good. It's 3 versus 2 now, then 2-2, then 1 versus 2. Suddenly things are looking grim again. You don't need to be psychic to see where the enemies are going. He needs to prepare, get in position and wait. And there's the siren. A cautious peek at the E-100, and soon the German crew are wondering how to remove the shell from their turret. The E-100 leaves the circle to defend his teammate, but the Object keeps hitting the unseen capper. The E-100 rolls forward and charges the Object. The enemy peeks out whilst on reload, and that is the last mistake it will do in this battle. Only the Borsig remains. There's nothing Tony SNK can do about his one-shottable state. It's time to go and challenge the rival TD. Moving closer, the Borsig misses his shot by inches. The first shot at the Borsig also misses. Some careful maneuvering is needed here. A shot takes the Borsig's HP advantage away, and charging through the house sets up the perfect finishing shot. You are the Defender of the Week. Congratulations! This week's Confederate is the player called Commander DL, driving his ELC AMX. I know you're all used to hearing how Confederate is like a consolation prize. One kill still after another, missed opportunities and misfortune, blah blah blah. But not today. This guy has earned the Confederate Award for a completely different reason. First of all, this contender ends up in a Tier 9 encounter battle on Muravanka. Early on, it looks like the EOC heads out to be a passive scout at the capture zone, but he's far from passive and starts taking on dangerous opponents, starting with the T-29 and then the T-34-1. The score is 5-5, 4 minutes in, and the AMX is still alive. Surprising, but wait, there's more. The enemy war machines break the Allied defenses, and only our tiny champion can check their advance. After a short game of hide-and-seek, the EOC drives into the circle to help the prototype with the capture. The FV-207 is no threat, but the T-30 sure is. Luckily, the Allied deals with the aggressor. The Waffenträger Aufpanzer IV kills the Allied E-75, but the EOC is quick to take revenge. Never give up, never surrender! The enemy arty finishes off the last ally, and the French tank is left alone, against 3 SPGs and an IS-8. He quickly finishes off the FV-207 and a near miss from the GW Tiger P. Phew! Survived that one. Teammates guide him to one of the SPGs and it's instantly destroyed. The second one is quick to follow. Now the hardest part, the IS-8. The EOC heads out to where it was last spotted and it's still on the same spot. It's a present, a really hard-earned one. A tiny machine you would expect to see in a second-line support role in a battle like this managed to rack up 6 kills and deal almost 4,500 damage. Only the enemy Waffenträger could top that, by the way. The EOC flat-out carried the whole battle. That's why we award him the title of Confederate of the Week, with gold and the special medal included. And now a question for our viewers. How do you like this new Confederate format? Leave your answers in the comments. This week's Top Gun goes to the call sign 51, driving a Comet. Defending against an assault on Siegfried Line can be like holding on in a siege. Our star, with the difficult name, heads out to cover the northern flank. Unfortunately, it looks like he's doing it alone. Spotting several enemies, the Brit gets busy and takes them all on. The Allies try to help, but it's mostly a one-man show. Five kills later, the flank is secure and it's time to find more targets. The Comet finishes off a French TD and probably can't help wondering why the team's score matches his kill counter. There's no time to worry about it though, since a Black Prince is harassing an Allied KV-2. Punching holes in the Prince is interrupted by a charging EOC, but not for long. It's time to get His Majesty's attention and try to save the KV-2. Well, it seems like the artillery are awake. A few more shots and a sudden fire remind the enemy that it's time for their afternoon tea. Badly mauled by the artillery, the Comet blazes on. 7 enemies left and only 1 ally. It's epic carry time. The capture alarm tells him where to go. An AMX 12-ton is finished off by the Allied SPG. Hey, you're useful! The Su-100M1 tries to end the heroic streak of the Comet, but with no success. The Brit stops just in time and the shot takes out his track. Not too scary. 3 shots in return, now that's scary. Leaving the area doesn't work. A Jagdpanzer IV attacks the 2 remaining Rambos, but his full HP are gone in a moment. That's the 10th kill. He heads out to look for the remaining enemies, but it turns out they are quite easy to find. First, the dueling shoeboxes fight between the FV-304s ends in his favor. Then another capture attempt starts. Turning back now could be a mistake. The Lorraine and the AMX-13F are spotted and are taken out on the run, action movie style. The ally easily finishes off the enemy Stug and we can celebrate a hard-earned victory. The Comet and the FV took out everybody. 3 kills are good for an SPG and 12 make 51 this week's Top Gun hero. Keep it up! This week's Steel Wall Award goes to the player called Ivan 2001, driving a T95. You probably remember we saw this vehicle quite recently, and the tactics used were... okay, there were no tactics. This time it's different. The name of the game is Assault on Erlenberg. The hard-boiled American is at the top of the list, and he must hold the defense at any cost. Of course, first he needs to crawl into position. Yes! The hardest part is over. The rest is simple. Just dance and absorb the damage. Ricochets are followed by track shots and the TD tears pieces off all enemies careless enough to be spotted. The unspotted ones try their best to dismantle the American as well, but they would probably be more effective if they just tried distracting Ivan with the alt chat. Look at that! The T-95 is literally wading through corpses. Nothing can stop this Super Mario from reaching the castle, and even the princess is there. An enemy SPG came to finish this fight up close and personal, but he only succeeded in becoming the final brushstroke to this scene of slaughter. The time is up, and the armored beast scores 8 kills, received 93 hits, and absorbed nearly 24,000 points of potential damage. A great fight and a great match. The title of Steel Wall of the Week is well deserved. This week's Best Replay award goes to a whole platoon. That's right. The E-50M, Foch 155, and Object 268 are all co-stars this time. At the start of the battle, the trio head out towards the square. Playing the support role is a noble cause. By the time the Foch takes the first kill, the scoreboard shows 1-6. The platoon fights on, and their allies die, but it's all according to the plan. The tide turns with the death of the last ally as the conservation of ninjutsu is in effect. 5-12, the hunting season has just begun. The Foch's shells find a soft target in the T-34, and death claims it after a dramatic ram from the French ninja. 3 kills for the 155, and the allies are keeping up. The capture starts, and there are many more enemies. The German Med and the Object take care of 4 at once. An E-50M, IS-7, Batchat, and IS-3. They are like Legolas and Gimli at Helm's Deep. The siren is still howling, and the Heroes 3 decide to envelop the enemy. The 268 and the E-50M drive to the base down the 2-column, whilst the Foch takes the outer ring road. The Soviet TD immediately takes out the AT-15. This flushes out an enemy E-50, and it rolls straight into the Foch's sights. Now everything is fair, 3 versus 3, and each of our stars have 4 kills. The E-50M is the first to the base, and he quickly sets the AMX 1375 on fire. The trio easily overwhelm the Indian, and then it's almost over. Only the artillery remains alive. The E-50M is once again the first to the target, but the Top Gun doesn't happen. The 212A manages to take him out. Does it spoil the fun? No way! The Foch sends the arty to the garage, making the numbers next to their names match up. 5 kills each. Who needs this Top Gun when you can have that? The platoon swept aside all who stood in their way and proved once again that unity is strength. That's why we award all 3 the gold, the special medal, and the title of Best Replay of the Week. Great work, guys! That's it for the replays. You can see the link for how to get on Best Replays of the Week. If you haven't seen the Chieftain snapshots, you should check them out. Also, we will soon release a documentary called Tank Smell of Bogs. You can already watch the trailer. And now it's time to go. If you like this video, like and share it, and subscribe to the channel if you want more. I am Luke Neller, thank you, and see you next time.
Here we go now.